Let's go through a bit of the card quickly. The 5-way: Rhea, Ripley, Nia Jax, Shayna Baszler, Zoey Stark, and Raquel Rodriguez. I don't see a title change in this one. I think Rhea's getting the Rome, maybe not to the extent of Roman Reigns, but a super long title run.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, I don't think she's going to drop it until WrestleMania, or at least, maybe even beyond that. And I think this feud has mostly been an effort to elevate the rest of the division that's not Becky up to, near a level of a Rhea Ripley. And I think it's been somewhat successful. Nobody is going to be at a Rhea Ripley level at this point, but does Nia Jax have a bit more relevance now than she did? Well, certainly because she wasn't a part of the company, but I think they have at least like made her feel like a threat, that they could at least tell a story with Rhea Ripley. I'm trying to really be nice here with the Nia Jax feud, but
I haven't seen this comeback as all that inspiring, but we will see what she produces in this match. I mean, you should have you have enough talent in this match that hopefully it's an entertaining match, and I think they'll have a way. Like, this is kind of like, 4 of the monsters and like Zoey Stark, who is sort of the
she's kind of portrayed as maybe not a monster, but somebody who can kind of keep up.
Yeah, I don't want to classify her as like the underdog in this, but it's like she's the one that's like the I don't know. I guess maybe like a better description.
Multi-person matches in the women's division, like in the WWE, I feel like have traditionally been, one of like the best matches like the divisions have been able to put out. So this could have a good chance of being good. Everybody's going to have a different outfit too.
That's
for Saudi.
Yeah, we'll see what the outfits display. John Cena, Solo Sikoa. I still kind of feel like this is one I can certainly see the argument that Sikoa should win this match, but I also see the more likely outcome that this is. I also don't want to see Cena just beaten like a drum. Like, yes, this guy is a lot more limited in the ring, but he is certainly not limited when it comes to his ability to really move numbers. And I would not want to take that for granted, that every so often you should throw this guy a requisite victory. I think in hindsight, losing to Austin Theory meant nothing.
Yeah.
If he was going to do one loss this year, it probably should have been to Sikoa instead of Austin Theory. But for that reason, I could certainly see Cena winning this one and, keeping him at a level where he is still perceived as, a major star in the company when he comes back.
Yeah. I think this one, has gotten a bit harder to predict after tonight's set of promos where Cena, I thought, really got the better of Solo Sikoa. But I do think a lot of it ultimately has to do with whether or not Cena is going to be sticking around. If he's sticking around after, then I could see him getting.
Do you realize, by the way, that tonight Cena gave a Taz shout out on SmackDown, and on Dynamite it was Taz giving the Cena shout out during that wipeout plug?
Oh, okay. And Cena didn't even know about that. That was
this was taped last week, so they both gave a shout out to one another this week.
One was basically, a part of like work, like,
But it was not like just the read though. It was
said,
an
I know that guy.
Comment. Yeah.
You're right. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Solo Sikoa. I think they're still very protective of him, and Cena, maybe he wants to keep this. Can I finally get my win story going on a bit longer?
I kind of want to see Thesby and John Cena return without a voice.
Yes, absolutely. I want him to talk with the Johnny Ace
voice box.
You can't see me.
Cody Rhodes and Damian Priest. This feels like a match I've seen 500 times. I think Priest could lose.
Have we actually? Have we seen it?
No, we probably haven't, but it feels like it. Listen, this match, I promise, this is my review. They worked really hard. Nothing to complain about it. The crowd was into it. Good match. One I'm not going to remember the second it's over. I see Cody winning, and Damian is his reprieve is the fact that he's got the briefcase and can tease it later in the night.
So we've seen it once before. Okay, these two have had a match. Now they have had a lot of tag team matches with each other at some point. So I can see why it doesn't feel all that fresh. I mean, it's pretty inconsequential with really nothing on the line. I don't like, would a loss here disrupt Cody from completing his story? No. So I think he can get screwed enough in a way that, gives Priest the win. But we also know how protective they are of Cody and how unprotective they are of people with the Money in the Bank briefcase.
Yeah.
So I'm more likely to agree that Cody wins.
Rey Mysterio and Logan Paul. Like, they've done nothing to hint at this Rey Mysterio Santos Escobar deal that maybe we've been reading into, but I don't think so. I feel that like that can be revisited whenever you want, and maybe it happens as quickly as here. Regardless, I see Logan Paul winning this title. I think there's just so much more you could do with Logan Paul with this belt. Rey doesn't need it, and that's my thought there.
Agreed. Yeah, I mean, maybe Santos and Rey was more of a direct sort of idea before they maybe realized that Logan was going to be available for something like this. But you can, like you said, tell that story without the U.S. Championship. At this point, they might even drag that thing out until WrestleMania season. So the match itself, I'm actually quite looking forward to. I think there's enough. I mean, Logan Paul has really displayed like prodigy level aptitude for that sort of like high flying style, and there's nobody better to put him in there with than somebody like a Rey Mysterio. I think they'll use the height advantage in probably interesting like underdog ways, and look for like a big spectacular spot like you saw last year, I should say.
Maybe Dylan Danis gets involved.
Would he join the LWO? Does he identify as Latino? Yeah, I think he does, right? I don't know.
I don't think so. Seth Rollins and Drew McIntyre for the World Heavyweight Championship. This should be great. I think this probably going to be the match of the show if they have the time. Do you see this being one and done, or could they get some more out of this one?
I could see more out of this one, especially if, I mean, they are walking like Drew is very much a tweener technically, but I think to a lot of people he might already be a heel. And if you get a full on turn for this one, I could see them working their way towards a rematch, even if he doesn't win the championship, which I don't expect him to. So bigger story could be told here with Drew fully turning, maybe setting up another match down the road. But I'm looking forward to this one the most, just due to story. Expect maybe some focus on the back of Seth Rollins, but ultimately I see Drew coming up short to drive him further into madness.
This is also Seth Rollins. Next week is the deadline for the Observer ballot, and Rollins and Reigns are both campaigning on this show on top of it.
Well, what kind of match could he possibly have here that might change anybody's opinion? Even if he has like a 7-star match, would that change anyone's opinion?
Maybe might be people are on the fence.
Like, because he's a great wrestler. Like, who is on the fence enough like for that sort of a qualification? Like what are the arguments? I don't want to get into maybe a whole Observer debate, but
last match here, Roman Reigns and LA Knight for the undisputed Universal Championship. I think everyone sees Reigns retaining, but I think more so this is Knight that needs to kind of have the performance of a lifetime, and I think they'll have plenty of bells and whistles to do this. And I guess it's just a question of how dominant a win they give Roman Reigns, or because they've been fairly, when it comes to Sami Zayn, like Cody Rhodes, they did have the interference and such. Like, I certainly expect like run-ins in this. But yeah, this is an interesting match just in terms of the booking and the handling of LA Knight, who is definitely a character that has caught on and has not just been a short-term thing. I think the audience is growing and growing, and you want to preserve this.
And I think Saudi especially will be very reactionary to LA Knight. If you remember that press conference that they did last year, or was it earlier this year? I don't even remember at this point. Earlier this year, right? Last time they were in Saudi Arabia.
I think so, yeah.
They did a press conference and the crowds were chanting for LA Knight, even though he was not booked on the card. So now he's in the main event. So I think they'll take to him really well as a babyface and give him a lot of support. I think they'll treat him well in the match. They'll like the most that they can hope for is a very convincing near fall. And if they do that, then they'll have been successful in making LA Knight feel like an established world title contender. And I think they'll get that. The style of match will be interesting too. This is, Roman Reigns we're talking about, so expect a lot of cinema in-ring exposition, and how that matches with like what we've seen out of LA Knight, like basically kind of doing like a very 80s heavyweight style, like, John Cena style of main event. Might work really well, because I don't think there's the expectation that these two are going to be doing, I don't know, Topic on Heroes or anything like that.
What about an eternal monologue by Roman Reigns as he gets the blunt force trauma?
Like everything's in slow-mo. We just hear what's in his head. That could really take. I don't think wrestling's
we get a Daniel Stern voiceover. There I was in Riyadh. It was the blunt force trauma. All good things come to an end.
If the pandemic had dragged on for this long, we might be at that point, John, of cinematic wrestling.
By this point, Shawn Michaels' hands would be talking back to him.
Did we also talk about Bianca versus Io?
I see Io retaining.
Io retains. Kairi Sane meeting perhaps in Saudi, perhaps shortly afterwards. So,
and then the kickoff is Sami Zayn, JD McDonagh, which should be your fine kickoff style match, but I don't expect much like angle wise coming out of this. Probably just an easy win for Sami. Crowd will be very hot for him, and I think that's about it.
Yeah, Saudi is, was at least the biggest star of the last. Did they call it Crown Jewel? I'm so messed up now with these sort of.
No, it was another name.
Okay, he was the biggest territorial star, it felt like, and he'll get that same reaction here, I'm sure. I'm very curious to see if there's any sort of messaging from Sami in regards to everything going on in the Middle East right now, like what the Monday promo was. We later kind of came to find out, when he basically used his verbiage against the Judgment Day to talk about rebellion and resistance, and pretty much like tweeted out that promo alluding to that being his stance. So I'm curious to see if he'll do anything a bit more sort of blatant in the body of the match even.
All right, that is Crown Jewel. That is coming up on Saturday. Again, we will be up after the show to discuss it. And now we are happy to discuss anything with you. So feel free to join in and chat. And we will also be going to the forum before we